say a little bit about the kind of things we're doing at the prison. So I'm we call it level one volunteer or pink tag at the prison, and I have about 6 programs that I do as a volunteer there. And they range everything from art programs, poetry program, a lifers program. One of the groups is called a knowledge group, and that group is the inmates. It's on the schedule. It's called a knowledge group, but the inmates call it chill with Diggs group because all we do we basically talk about all kinds of things, everything from behavioral economics to quantum physics, anything that guys want to talk about that may be in a prison. The prison culture doesn't support, but that's a place where they can talk about it. We talked about things like when they get out, what are they going to do? What kind of, we have people who come in and talk about how to start a business. Recently, we had a guy who is he's a music producer in Sioux Falls, and he puts on shows, and he gets people recorded and stuff like that. So he came to the prison to talk to the guys who think they want to be stars when they get out, and so he came and talked to them and answered questions about how the music business actually works. So we do all kinds of things in that group. Going backwards, we have an art group, and that art group actually has an annual art show at the Arc here in Aberdeen. So it usually goes from about mid-November into the end of December. So if you're around that time, come and see what kind of artwork that inmates are producing. We've produced one book, art book, in that group. And then we have the poetry group, and that group has done 2 books already, and they're available on Amazon. And all the profits from the books go to the Family Connection. Family Connection is a group that goes to do work. They do work with the children of the inmates. So children are often even more traumatized than their parents when the parents go to prison, especially when both parents go to prison. So this group does a lot of work with them. When their loved ones come to visit, they provide a place for them to stay so they don't have to pay full rate for a hotel, and they try to encourage people to come and visit their loved ones in prison, family members. They try to encourage that because one of the greatest deterrents for recidivism is having family members keep connection. When they lose the connection between family and the inmates, there's a very high chance that inmate will recidivate and go back into prison.
Is there a program in this area, like get on the bus for the family members to get transported?
No, we don't have anything like that. All of the things I'm talking about are groups that I'm doing. Technically, I'm a Buddhist monk. I don't wear that on my sleeve, but technically I am. If I were asked in court, I'd have to say that. So I'm there as kind of the Buddhist chaplain at the prison. So all of these programs that I'm talking about now are just the programs that I'm doing. There are other very worthy programs that other religions are doing, but I can't talk about them because they're not my programs. The poetry group was started because a lot of times inmates have a very difficult time to communicate. That's one of the sort of like key thing if you want to like find a common thread. Most of the inmates have a very difficult time communicating, especially the ones who are involved in violent crimes, especially kind of domestic violence and those kind of things. One of the things we find out pretty quick is that they resort to that because the other means of communication that we would like them to have they are very unskilled, let's say, at doing that. And I call it emotional epilepsy. You know, they get so much emotion pent up, and it can come up really quick, and then pretty soon they've hurt somebody. So we try to use poetry to help them to find the words or give them an outlet to talk about what's bothering them or just express how they feel. But we don't say, well, just come with a feeling poem. We just, whatever you want to write. So we have the two books. We're working on a third book. And in that book, you can see a lot of interesting things revealed in terms of what are the inner workings of these guys' minds. Probably, oh, I'll say a little bit about the Lifers group. Um, the administration wanted something, wanted to do something with lifers because a lot of these guys, when they see a life sentence, they have no idea of what to do with themselves. There is no preparation in a person's life that prepares you to be in prison for the rest of your life. And most of them don't, let's say they're not very imaginative, so they're not going to come up with a solution by themselves. And the prison administration was concerned that these people are just sort of rotting in prison because they could be doing something else. They could be useful. So they asked me if I would convene a group and see if I could help them to be more imaginative and do something. So that group is a work in progress. And part of the reason that it has had, I would say it has a slow start, but I'm not one to like try to speed things up. Things have an organic way that they grow. But part of the reason is very illustrative in the sense that when these guys got together, the guys who were, let's say, the most vocal, they wanted to do things like provide ice cream for everybody. And so I just kind of said, hey, look, that's nothing. Nothing's going to happen with just having ice cream. You know, you guys are like 50, 60, 70 years old, and that's the only thing you can think of that has meaning is ice cream. And so and then the other inmates, many of the other inmates agreed, and they wanted to do something else. But these vocal guys, they kind of chased them all away, and then so it's been an interesting journey. But now they're kind of coming around. So anyway, that's we're waiting for that. Probably the most useful and active group, though, is the Compassionate Outreach Group. This group was started when the guys in the Buddhist group wanted to know more about the other religions. And we decided that what we would do is, well, let's put it this way. They wanted to know what the religions themselves thought, and especially the guys in those religions in the prison. They wanted to know what do they think their religion is supposed to be. And so we decided to have a conference where we would invite all of the leaders of those groups to come and tell us who they are rather than us guessing. And so they agreed, and we got everything from Asatru, Wiccans, Baptists, Catholics, Jews, Muslims, of course, Buddhists. We had all these different religions to show up and be a part of it. And we spent 1 year practicing their speeches. And the deal was, look, we just want you to talk about what your religion is about, not in contrast to someone else's, just your religion. Just tell us about your religion. And so we want you to practice doing that. And then I had all of the other guys to critique the speech that each group was giving. So as to say, okay, if this guy is saying this, how do you think your members will hear it? Will, is that the best way they can say it? If he's using a slide or something, is that the best way we can do that? So I had these guys work for about a year doing this. And what happened in that year was that all of these religions working together, they bonded. So after we did a presentation for the whole prison, and I asked them to stay around after it was finished and to do an evaluation. How do you think it's going? They said, we thought it was great. How do we keep this going? So I asked them, what is the common denominator in all of your religions? And they thought it was compassion. All of the religions said that that was probably the most important thing, and that ran through all of the religions. So we decided to do something around compassion together. And they were looking for a project, and long story short, they decided to do a project where they would send greeting cards to people whose mother died while they were in prison. That's a big deal when people's loved ones die while they're in prison. Uh, People who missed their parole, they thought they were going to get a parole, but they didn't get it, and they're really bummed out. People who found out that their children had been taken away from them. All kinds of things happen to you in prison. And mostly you're sitting there alone with that grief. And it was decided that what would happen, what we could do, is at least send them a card. We have about 1,200 inmates. This program has been going for a little bit over a year, about a year and 3 months. And to date, we have sent over 800 cards to all of the inmates in the prison. And we know that it has an impact because we regularly get responses like one guy. For example, one guy came up to one of our meetings and he said, I'm over 60 years old. I've been in prison most of my life. This is the first greeting card I've ever gotten in my life. Never gotten a birthday card. I've never gotten any kind of greeting card. He said, I don't know what you guys are doing up here, but I want to be a part of that. So we know that we're getting some positive response. The administration has recently asked this group, because they see the kind of things we're doing, and they asked this group to provide a recreation for the people with special needs, because we have a lot of people, I don't even know how they're in prison, because they're like kids in prison with adults. So they have their own tier. One of our guys is the kind of like caretaker for that if you're not supposed to be on that tier, you can't come over there, and this guy will challenge you if you do come over there, that you're not supposed to be there, so that these guys don't get bullied, because they're kind of targets for bullying. So all of that, happened. So at any rate, that's the kind of thing that we're doing. We do compassion conferences once a year in the prison where we talk about compassion. We have, in the religions, I forgot to mention, one of the key organizations is Native American religions that come and talk about what their religion is about, and do prayers. We had a day of prayer. Each religion prayed in their religious tradition. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing. I'm hoping that we'll keep finding new ways to incentivize people to be better human beings, even if they're in prison.